Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this little gem right here, OrcQuest. This is put out by Maze Games, and if that looks familiar, there was another game called HeroQuest that was put out a while ago that has a lot of the same symmetry as this picture right here. There's no correlation at all. This is a little card game that has some dice rolling in it as well. A lot of take that in it, because you can steal cards from people left and right. You can make people discard challenges that they were trying to achieve and they were counting on to get more gains in their pile. There's a lot of take that going on in this game, and you're simply trying to get the most points or the most loot by the end of the game. So it does play pretty fast. Let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it works, and we'll come back with some final thoughts in just a few moments. So here I have set up for you a 4-player game of OrcQuest. Now in OrcQuest, you're simply trying to gain the most loot by the end of the game, or gains is what they actually call it in the rulebook. Each player is going to start with 6 cards in their hand. They also have a special character with a special ability here, and it also tells them how much health they start with at the beginning of the game as well. So here you have Oris, who is an orc warrior. His special ability is once per game, Oris can consider his plus or minus rolls on the dice as successes during a brawl challenge. We'll get to understanding what all that means as well. You also have a couple of player aids. They are double-sided, so there's 3 of them in the game. You can pass those around. First player token, a bunch of health points, and a bunch of dice. Now, to start the game, you have to actually set up a permanent challenge out here that people can choose to face, or to face one of the challenge cards from their deck. So you have to start by turning over cards. And while we do this, we're actually going to be discarding them. But while we do it, we're going to talk about the different kinds of cards. There are 4 cards in the game. You have cheap shots, and cheap shots can be used on anybody's turn. It doesn't have to be your own on your turn. It can be used anytime, and you can use any number of them on any player's turn that you would like to. So this is the most freely usable card ever, and this is where you're really going to have the best chance of making sure that you win, because you can make other people do things that they don't want to do. You can make people help you on challenges that is only going to benefit you. So there's a lot of different things. For example, here, this easy money says take part in a brawl and engaged by another player. If successful, take one of his gains at random. So those are cheap shots. There are also magic stuff. Now, you can only play 1 magic stuff per turn, but anybody can play a magic stuff on anybody's turn. So if you have a magic stuff on your turn that you want to play, somebody could actually stop you from playing that one on your turn by playing one of the magic stuff they have on your turn. So this is a little tricky, but basically they have very contextual powers, and it's very self-explanatory. For example, this one here, the Troll's Hooch, recovers up to 5 health for you on somebody's turn. Another kind of card is treasure cards. Treasure cards can be encountered, or rather engaged, just like any other kind of challenge card. You just do it in front, you just place it face up in front of you on your turn, and it goes into your gains pile, and this counts as one of your gains. But you could do one of these and a challenge card during your turn, so that's pretty cool as well. That's the treasure cards. So we continue drawing here until, okay, well, we've reached our first challenge card. This is a brawl challenge card. There are actually 3 different kinds of challenge cards. There are also traps and captures. So here it says catch the princess. And so basically the anatomy of a challenge card is simply the kind of challenge that it is up here. So you have brawl, trap, or catch. Then you have the bad thing that will happen to you on this side of the card if you fail the challenge. And then this is how many gains it will be, or the good thing that happens to you if you succeed. In the middle here is the number of successes you have to get, and the kind of dice that you're going to roll. So for example, you have red, green, and yellow dice. There are also white dice on the cards, but there are no white dice in the game. That just simply means you don't have to roll a die because there are no white dice in there. And here you have a number of successes is 0. Now, the crux of rolling your dice is such that greens are the best dice to roll because they have the most chance for success. Yellows are in the middle somewhere, and then reds are the most difficult dice to roll and get successes on. When you roll a sunburst or an explosion side, that is a success. If you roll a minus sign, that means you can re-roll a die at a more difficult level. So for example, if it's a green that you get this face on, you have to re-roll on a yellow. If you get a, well, there is no plus on this because it's the easiest one, but if you're rolling a yellow and you get a minus, then you will have to roll on a red to try to get a success. And again, it's more difficult to get successes on reds. But if you roll a plus on the red or the yellow die, then if you're rolling red, you'll get to re-roll on the yellow, which makes it easier. If you're rolling a yellow and you get a plus, then you get to re-roll on a green, which makes it easier to get that success. So at the beginning of my turn here as Abgral, I can take my hand and I will actually draw a card and add it to it. All right, so now that I've drawn a card, I now have my full hand limit of 7, which is important because if you ever go over 7, which you are able to if you want to, but if somebody catches you doing it, they can take a card randomly from your hand. The first thing that I can do on my turn is I can either engage the permanent challenge that's out here, or I can engage one of the challenges from my hand. It just so happens that I have one of each, and some of these things work well together. For example, I have this magic thing here with Chick's Golden Eggs. And it says, after someone achieves the Catch the Chick challenge, then I can place this card into my gains. It just so happens that I fortuitously got Catch the Chick in my hand, so I have a pretty good set there. So I can choose to challenge one of these here, or this one right here. I cannot do both. I can just do one or the other. So I'm going to go ahead and try to challenge the Catch the Chick here. And what this does is I have to roll 2 green dice and I have to get 1 success. If I succeed, I get a health point. It doesn't really help me right now because I haven't lost any health, and you can never go over the amount that you start with. So I'm really just trying to get this one achieved so that I can play this card into my gains pile. So I'm going to take my green dice here and I'm going to roll them. And I got 1 success, which is all I needed for this thing. So this becomes part of my gain pile. And then because I achieved this challenge, I get to put this into my gains pile as well. One other thing, I can do exceptionally well at these challenges, which means that if I get more successes than I needed to finish it, I'll actually get some more rewards. So if I had hit twice on this, I would have been able to draw a card and add it to my hand, which is better in the long run. And now I'm also going to play a treasure card into my pile as well, which means that now I have those 2 gains. There's nothing else that I want to play right now, so I am finished, and my turn ends. Yes, Mandar's turn. And Mandar is going to first of all add a card to his hand. Ooh, War Dogs, but he has to get 2. All right, so we're going to go ahead and try to play War Dogs here. He gets to roll 2 green dice, but he has to get 2 successes on it. That's going to be kind of difficult, so he's also going to play There Will Be Blood. And There Will Be Blood makes another player take part in your brawl. And this is an important part of it because what that means is, let's say that he's going to ask Oris to come along with him on this challenge. So what Mandar will do first is roll his 2 dice. And he gets a chance for another one. Okay, so now he rolls a green. And now he rolls a yellow. Okay, that's nothing. So he got no successes on his challenge, but because he forced Oris to help him or to take part in the challenge, now Oris is going to be rolling 2 green dice. And again, we're trying to get 2 successes. Well, this is not going to go well. And there's 1 success, but 2 were needed. So Mandar is going to lose 2 health here. So that's basically how the game plays until this deck runs out. And then there's going to be a time where you can play, it's the last turn of the game, and that's where you can play these bell cards. Some of the cards have bells on them, and that simply means that you can't play this until the last turn. When the deck runs out, everybody else gets 1 more turn to do basically whatever they want to do. If they want to try some of these better challenges on their last turn, they can do that, and so forth and so on. Whoever has the most gains at the end of that final turn is the winner. I will say that the artwork is one of the things that drew me into the game. I thought it looked great. It was a great presentation, even though the back of the box, major faux pas. No components on the back of the box. Bad maze games. Now, with that having been said, this is basically just, as I said before, a card playing game with a huge, and I mean a heavy, take that element that is going on here. There is dice rolling, so there's a lot of randomness that's involved. So if any of that kind of rubs you the wrong way, you know, a lot of randomness and a very huge take that element, you probably want to look away at this point, because that's the crux of what this game is. There's a little bit of comboing going on. There's a lot of, not really set collection, but you are wanting to collect as much gains as possible. And that seems sometimes very hard to do because of all the other take that and because of the randomness of the die rolling. So let's get to some pros first of all. All right, so the pros is there's dice rolling. I like dice rolling games, and I like the mechanism of upgrading or downgrading dice, giving you another chance. Maybe it's a smaller chance because you have to use a more difficult die than you do, or maybe it's a better chance because you get to use an easier die, depending on the plus or minus symbol that you roll. I like that exploding die mechanism. It's not really exactly an exploding die mechanism because you don't get a success and then you get more successes. It is a chance to get that success that you need if you didn't get any anyway. And if you already did get what you needed, this gives you a chance to get more successes, which means that you could get more cards, which means that you have more choices on the next turn. Another pro of the game, and I already mentioned this, was the artwork. It's very well done. I like the look of the cards. They have dark borders on them, which I usually like the look of, but I always say, and I really do believe that it just makes the game look worse as the game gets played more and more, because those dark borders show those nicks and scratches and scrapes even more than a regular white bordered or a light bordered card would. So I do like the graphic design of the game, except for the dark borders, but with that having been said, it does look good. It's just that that's going to wear out pretty quick. Another pro is all of the combos that you can get in this game, and the cheap shots are where a lot of that happens, which is unfortunate because this is actually going to bleed in to one of the cons. But the positive, the pro side of this is that I like all the different combinations that can come about with the use of those cheap shots. It does make the game pretty interesting and very humorous to have all of this happen at the same time sometimes from different people's hands. But now we start the cons, where those cheap shots enter into a huge, and I mean a huge, take that mechanism. For example, there are cheap shot cards in there that basically say after a person has achieved a challenge card, you can take that card. Well, that's neither here nor there if it was an easier one. Okay, it was simple, it's only like 1 gain anyway, fine, take it. But what if it was a difficult one that I used a lot of cards out of my hand to achieve, and then somebody else just says, nah, that's mine. You did all that work for me. No, don't like that at all. Furthermore, there are some character powers. Now, character powers are usually, for me especially, a very cool thing because I like how everybody can do something that's just a little bit different maybe, or sometimes a lot different than everybody else. The problem with that is that in this game, the different character powers that are out there are pretty widely different in how powerful or how weak they are. Some of the powers seemed much more powerful, much more useful than others. And that's kind of unfortunate. Asymmetry is good in a game usually, but not when it definitely feels like somebody else's asymmetry is better than your asymmetry. Now, with all that having been said, you may hear that and say, yes, a 20-minute take that game that I can play with my gamers and have a great time while we kind of cleanse our palate from one heavy game to the next. That's right down my alley. That might be the case, and if so, super duper for you. For me, though, it's a hard pass. Just because I don't like the kind of take that is in there. And it can be such a huge swing. One of the games that I played, the player that won got 30, I think, 4 points, and 15 of those points were done in the last 2 rounds of the game, where he used his special ability to steal somebody else's gain from them, and then he used one of those cheap shot cards to steal another person's challenge that they had just achieved, and one was for 8 points and the other one was for 7 points. Wow, just too swingy for me. I don't like that in a game, especially when it can just be done on a whim. So all in all, this is going to be a middle of the road for me. It's going to be a 5 out of 10. Now, this is strange for me because usually 5s, I don't keep them in my collection, but my sons really enjoy this game, and so I do have to mention that they had a great time playing it. We played it one night. They asked to play it again the next night. So it is one of those games that I think for certain groups, certain kinds of people, they're going to love it and they're clamor for it as a filler game. But some of us, the rest of us, or the other parts of us, whatever, we're not going to like it that much either. So that's it for me. A 5 out of 10 for OrcQuest, with the caveat being that my 2 teenage boys really did enjoy the game and they had a lot of fun with it. So there you go. And my wife liked it too. So there's that as well. She liked the lighter feel of it and the just go get it, and she had a lot of fun playing it. So there's that. I might be in the minority here, and if that's the case, fine and dandy. But 5 out of 10 from me, with the caveats being that my family did enjoy it. So I'll be keeping it in my collection, but not because I wanted to. All right, we'll see you on the flip side. Thanks for watching, folks.